Hi everyone, this is Sew Giraffe here with a new sew gaming tutorial for my Chikipi Plush pattern. You can purchase that at my Etsy shop, link in the description, or you can click the link up on the screen. Alright, let's get started. With the Etsy purchase, you will receive the plush pattern as well as a embroidery file for the 6 most basic files, and unfortunately the file is only for a 5x7 hoop. I was unable to get it down to a 4x4 hoop, so if you only have a 4x4 hoop, or if you do not have an embroidery machine, I have included applique instructions within the pattern itself. So the main reason I chose to do a Chikipi first is A, I love Power World. I think it's a really amazing game. And B, I always love when you are exploring and you finish off the creature and they just get these little swirls in their eyes and they're all just kind of rolling around on the floor. I personally, when I first saw the Chikipis doing that, I thought that was the cutest thing in the world. So I just thought, I need to make a pattern of that. So the first thing you're going to do, step 1, is to start by printing out the pattern. And then in step 2, you are going to cut out the pattern. Now please note, a 1/4 inch seam allowance is included within the pattern pieces. In step 3, if you have a 5x7 hoop for embroidery, you can definitely do that. I'm using my magnetic hoop that I got recently. I would highly recommend it if you do a lot of embroidery projects. Otherwise, you can do the applique. So once you're done with embroidering the project, step 3, you are going to pattern out the pieces. So that's basically, you're going to be tracing the pattern onto the fabric itself. Now for this video, I did use silver Sharpie. However, you could use the water-soluble pens if that's easier for you, or like the air drying where it disappears over time. Please note that when a pattern piece says cut 2 or more, it means one is going to be right side facing up and then the second one will be right side facing down. So the reverse of it. Step 4, you're going to cut out the fabric pieces. I typically do this while I'm sitting down watching my favorite show or something like that, but you can also do it working at a cutting table. It just depends on your preference. So now we're actually going to get to the sewing. So on step 5, I'm trying to keep track of the numbers in my head, you would start by sewing the darts on the face. So there's 2 in the top and then there's 1 in the bottom. Now the secret to doing good darts is to make sure that you kind of curve the fabric a little bit into it. So it's not like a straight line from the edge down to the corner where the dart stops. I'm not perfect at it yet. Eventually I will get there. But one thing I always tell people is that no matter what, this project's going to be unique to you. And so who cares if it has maybe a little bit of a wonky corner to it or something like that. You should still take pride in the fact that you made something, and that is truly wonderful. The next step, I'm just going to start doing that because I forgot the number of steps, but it will be on the screen. You would sew the wings together, leaving the inner side open for turning. So I typically leave about 1.5 inches space available for turning. Once you're done sewing both pieces, you're going to trim the edges. I personally use my pinking shears, or you can use your scissors and just clip into the seam, just making sure you don't clip past the sewing line. You're going to turn the wing right side out, and then you are going to top stitch along the curve of the wing, or you can use the guide that is on the pattern itself. repeat step 9 and 10 for the other wing. You're going to lightly stuff the wing. So you don't want it too stuffed up, but you want it enough that it kind of gives that appearance of an inner and an outer edge to the wing. You're going to base the wing to the face piece. So what I typically do is, I didn't want to make this so it was all of them are the exact same as far as where you put the wings up. Maybe you want to put the wings up just a little bit higher. Me personally, I line up the top edge of my wing with the bottom corner of the eye. I'll show you on the picture on the screen. So that's where I typically line up my wing. But if you want to make your bird kind of putting his arms up a little bit more, that's totally fine. So now you're going to sew the back of the body, leaving the center part open so that way you can turn it. Then you're going to take that back and sew it to the front, right sides facing. Make sure you use a lot of pins for this because this is a big sewing section that you will have to do. Trim this again and then turn right side out. the next part is we're going to sew the tail, and to do that we're going to take the gusset and we're going to attach it to one of the tail pieces, right sides facing. You're going to sew the top part of the tail to the gusset, stopping at the tail tip. Next, you're going to take the other tail piece and attach it to the other side of the gusset, right sides facing together again, sewing to the tail tip. Finally, you are going to pin the bottom pieces of the tail together, and then you will sew that up, make a corner, come back a little bit, and then sew back up again. Now trim and turn your project right side out and make sure there are no holes in it. Set that piece aside. Now we're going to sew the feet together. So take your 2 foot pieces, pin them together, and then you're going to leave the inner back side of the foot open for turning. That is marked on your pattern. You're also going to sew the beak at the same time because they are all the same fabric color, or at least for mine. If you want to make it have a yellow beak, feel free. So then you're going to trim that and then turn them right side out and set them off to the side. Next, we're going to sew and trim up the wattle and the comb. So the wattle is the part underneath the beak, and that you're going to leave the top half open for turning. And then the comb are the various pieces on the top of the head. So there's 3 total, large, medium, and small. Leave the bottom, the straight edge, open for turning. Make sure when you're done with sewing those, you trim them and then turn them right side out. So now we're going to stuff all our pieces. Personally, I like to use my forceps for this part of the process. It makes it a lot easier to turn pieces, especially smaller pieces like the foot and stuff, right side out. And also it makes it easier to stuff them as well. Stuff them to your liking. Personally, I do very firm on the body, but slightly less stuffing on the beak, wattle, comb, and feet. So now we're going to come together and sew up the project. So first we are going to do a ladder stitch. Instructions are on the screen right now and will be for the remainder of this video. Sew the back seam together. So what you're going to do is you're going to start in up at the top and then knot your thread and then come down and go in a ladder formation down the project until it is closed. Pull it together, tie it off, and stick the needle through the project and pull it out in a different location to ensure that the thread remains within the project itself. Next, you're going to take your tail that you have stuffed and you are going to gather around the open edge of it. So that means you will first tie it off. I typically do it in the seam. It just provides a little bit more of a purchase. And then you're going to sew in a single line around the whole piece without going back at all. So you're just continually running forward, or stitching forward, excuse me. And then you will pull it, and then that should gather the piece together, so that way there's a flat part that you can use to sew on to your project. Now sew the tail on to the Chikipi. Next, we're going to ladder stitch the feet closed, and then we will tie it off and make sure that that is secure, and then we will sew the feet onto the body itself. I put mine so the feet are sticking out a little bit more, so it's not as pigeon-toed. I think their feet in the game, it's just kind of straightforward, but I like to give mine a little bit of character. If you couldn't Next, you're going to gather and sew the wattle. Now personally, I didn't necessarily gather it. I did more of a ladder stitch on the top, and I think that worked better. But the first one I sewed, I actually did do a gathering stitch, so it might be the difference between fleece and minky. I'm not entirely sure. Gather up the beak and then sew it on to the face as well. I place my wattle and beak so that way the top of the beak is just slightly below the edge of the eye swirls, but that is entirely up to you. You can definitely put it a little bit higher if you would like. Finally, we are going to gather up the comb, and that is the top part of the head. We're going to start with the largest one. We're going to gather around the open seam and then sew it onto the top of the head at the very top of the head. Next, we're going to do the medium one, and finally the littlest one at the very bottom. that is it. You have finally finished your Chikipi. Give yourselves a pat on the back. You made something and it's going to be adorable, and there's never going to be another one just like it. So good job. If you would like to purchase this Chikipi or one like it, or if you would like to purchase the pattern for yourself, feel free to check out my Etsy shop in the description. I also have other video tutorials for various other sewing projects if you'd like to check it out. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.